All right, it looks like Cleveland Browns defensive lineman Maliek Collins had some very, very strong things to say about Shedeur Sanders in this quarterback situation for the Browns. This is making waves all over the internet. We got to get into it. Welcome to Keep the Video. Let's get right into things. This is courtesy of Dog Pound Daily, where it says Brown defenders say what fans needed to hear about DeShawn Watson's.
He didn't mean to say it. Or maybe he did. Maliek Collins, one of the most respected voices in that Cleveland locker room, sat down on a podcast, got asked a simple question about the quarterback competition, and said something that the entire Browns organization is going to have to answer for. Not because it was explosive, not because it was a call-out, but because of what it implied. May the best man win. 5 words, casual delivery, but at an NFL locker room where DeShawn Watson was supposedly already taking the lead, that's not nothing, that's everything. And here's what nobody's talking about. Collins didn't just say Shedeur deserves a shot. He said the veterans were told this would be an open competition, which means if that competition gets quietly handed to Watson, the cracks don't start with the fans, they start inside the building.
Wildly unforeseen will feature one of DeShawn Watson, Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, rookie, Taylon Green as a starting quarterback. The two extreme long shots at this juncture appear to be Gabriel and Green. While recent reports indicate that Watson has somehow taken the lead in the competition, conventional wisdom be damned, the conundrum likely represents the first crossroads for Todd Monken to define what his tenure in Cleveland will be. Okay, here it says, fans have grown understandably tired of Watson.
Let's go back and understand the weight of this moment. DeShawn Watson hasn't played a full season since before the pandemic. He cost the Browns more guaranteed money than any quarterback in NFL history. And after 2 years of injuries, inconsistency, and one of the most quietly catastrophic roster situations the league has seen, he skipped voluntary minicamp. Didn't show up. While Shedeur Sanders, the rookie, the unproven kid, the guy everyone said fell too far in the draft, was there, working, learning, competing. And then, Mary Kay Cabot drops a report suggesting Watson is somehow leading the competition. At a minicamp he didn't even attend. Todd Monken debunked it within 24 hours. But the damage was already done. Because now the entire fan base, and apparently the entire locker room, is watching to see which version of this franchise actually shows up. The one that says it's an open competition, or the one that quietly hands Watson the keys again? That's the context. That's the pressure cooker Maliek Collins just stepped into when he opened his mouth.
On 5-time Pro Bowler Terron Armstead's podcast, The Set, standout Browns defensive lineman Maliek Collins made it clear that the team knows where the competition stands going forward, and it's far from over. Mary Kay Cabot, okay? Here it says, when Collins, who said he had spent time with Monken earlier in the offseason, was asked if he had any thoughts regarding the quarterback competition, he initially played coy. He said, I don't have any. I think the main thing is they're both good dudes. I've seen the type of player DeShawn is. I've seen how...
Here's where things get interesting. Collins goes on Terron Armstead's podcast, The Set, and he's asked directly about the quarterback situation. And he does what veterans do. He plays it cool, says they're both good dudes, says Watson's been dynamic before, says Shedeur is super talented. Perfectly diplomatic. But then, right at the end, he says it. They said it was going to be an open competition. May the best man win. Read that again slowly. They said it was going to be an open competition. That's not confidence in the process. That's a veteran reminding the front office of a promise. That's a man who's heard the Watson whispers, same as the rest of us, and is using a public platform to put the organization on record. And this isn't a fringe player talking. This is Maliek Collins, a guy who spent time with Todd Monken personally this offseason, a guy with credibility in that locker room. If he's sending this message publicly, imagine what's being said behind closed doors.
thing with Shedeur Sanders is something that I pointed out yesterday. Shedeur Sanders is one of those guys that skips the layups to take the go for the great. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got to make sure that that person that you're going for great with, that receiver, also has greatness inside of him as well. And I think he fell victim to trusting his teammates a little bit too much, and their ability just didn't materialize. So hopefully, you need a Jerry Jeudy to turn it around. You need Denzel Boston to be able to adjust to the NFL game and be able to make those plays.
Now, let's go deeper, because this isn't really about football anymore. This is about what happens to a locker room when players don't believe the process is fair. Think about it from Shedeur Sanders' perspective. You come in as a first-round pick, you show up to every voluntary session, you're learning a new playbook from scratch, you're outworking a veteran who isn't even in the building, and the narrative being pushed to the media is that you're losing. That's psychological warfare, and whether it's intentional or not, it doesn't matter, because the players feel it. They see it. They watch how the organization responds to Watson versus how they respond to Shedeur. And Tyus touched on something critical in the film breakdown. Shedeur Sanders is a guy who skips layups to go for greatness. That's his nature. That's also his biggest risk. Because in Todd Monken's system, in any system where you're trying to win now, you have to show the coaching staff that you'll take the easy completion on 3rd and 4, that you'll manage the game when the game needs managing. That's the mental evolution the Browns need to see from Shedeur. Not just arm talent, not just confidence, discipline under pressure. And right now, every single rep at training camp is a psychological test, not just for Shedeur, but for the entire organization. Who do they actually believe in? And Nazi Harris is the blind spot in all of this. Monken debunked the Watson lead story fast, within 24 hours. That's not normal. Coaches don't usually rush to correct media narratives unless they feel something important is being distorted.
Here for Shedeur to know what he needs to work on. For DeShawn, it's about just going out there and making sure that we win games. I think that's ultimately what Todd Monken wants. We said it on this show a million times. Todd Monken is going to play the quarterback that he thinks can win him the most games. Because as you know, this thing is year to year, especially when you're a new head coach. It's not guaranteed that you're going to be here next year either. So you need to go out there and win some games. And as you had your owner come out and say, we thought this team was better than a 5-win team. Well, you better be shooting for more than 5.
Here's what he needed the locker room to know: that story wasn't coming from him. That tells you something about the internal temperature of this team. That tells you Monken understands maybe better than anyone that if the players believe Watson is being handed this job, the entire foundation of his coaching tenure gets undermined before a single regular season snap. And then Maliek Collins goes on a podcast and essentially echoes that sentiment publicly. That's not a coincidence. That's a coordinated, whether formally or informally, message. The veterans know what's at stake. Monken knows what's at stake. And right now, every organizational decision, who gets more reps, who the team features in content, how coaches frame their press conference language, is being watched by the fans, by the media, and most importantly, by the players inside that locker room.
Let's zoom all the way out. The Cleveland Browns ownership publicly said this team was better than a 5-win team. That's not a small statement. That's a declaration of expectations heading into a season where the head coach is brand new, the quarterback situation is unresolved, and the fan base has been burned so many times they've almost gone numb. If Watson starts and struggles early, and history says he will, how long before Monken has to make the move? How long before that locker room, which has already been seeded with questions about fairness, starts fracturing? Shedeur Sanders isn't just a backup plan. He might be the only plan that actually gives this franchise a future beyond 2026. Tyus said it himself: if the offensive line plays to its potential, if Jerry Jeudy bounces back, if Denzel Mims becomes a real red zone weapon, Shedeur Sanders could be a top 20 quarterback in this league. Could. That word carries everything. Because right now, the entire Cleveland season, the entire direction of this franchise, hinges on whether a rookie with a gunslinger's mentality can learn to take the layup when it matters most, and whether the organization has the courage to let him. So here's where we land. Maliek Collins didn't regret what he said. He meant every word. Because those 5 words, "May the best man win," weren't a throwaway line. They were a warning to the front office, to the ownership group, to anyone inside that building who thinks this competition has already been decided. The veterans are watching, the locker room is watching, and Shedeur Sanders, the kid everyone counted out before he even took an NFL snap, is still there, still working, still proving something. And sometimes, the most dangerous player in a competition isn't the one with the contract, it's the one with nothing to lose. The Browns QB battle isn't over. It may have just begun.